Hello and welcome to the start of the 2020 fall sports season here at ETHS. It's great to have so many student athletes participating this season and how all of our coaches back. We're looking forward to a great year. I know things have changed in a lot of different ways, but we're going to do the best we can to support our kids to have as many contests as we possibly can so they have a great overall experience. Normally we'd be sitting in the auditorium right now with about 500 or 600 folks. We're going to our YouTube channel to try to convey what we think is the most important information for parents, student athletes, and coaches to be aware of so that we're all on the same page and we can have the best school year possible. We're going to cover a lot of different things in this session, and I hope to minimize the amount of time that we normally would have spent in the auditorium through this more efficient system. But we're going to talk a little bit about how COVID has impacted our season this year and the changes and modifications that we have when it comes to spectators and safety guidelines. We're going to hear a little bit from our boosters and their support. We're going to hear from our athletic trainers as they talk about best ways to support our kids. Talk to you guys a little bit about how we support kids academically, especially this year. Not going to spend too much time on it, but we're going to touch on the college recruiting process. We're going to talk a lot about our mission statement, our core values and beliefs, and then really, most importantly, how you as parents can help support your student athletes during the course of the season and beyond. And then finally, we're going to make sure that everybody understands how our hate speech protocol works for our conference. So the most important thing that I want to make sure I cover with you today are the COVID-19 safety guidelines that we have in place for fall sports. First and foremost, we need to make sure that every one of our teams, our student athletes, our coaches, is taking all of our guidelines and precautions as serious as possible. Students that don't follow the guidelines are not going to be allowed to participate. And programs that don't follow the guidelines are not going to be able to continue to participate and may have their seasons suspended. So what do the guidelines look like? First off, as you've probably already seen, our practices are going to be consisted of training pods of 25 or fewer students. Once these pods are established, kids aren't going to be moving back and forth from one pod to the next. We want to make sure that kids stay within that same group for the entire season. So prior to each day's participation, whether it's practice or contests, students and coaches are going to have to conduct their own screening for COVID-19 symptoms. Those consist of a series of questions that ask them about symptoms. We'll ensure that their temperature is never higher than 100.4 degrees and make sure that they have not traveled outside of Illinois to any of the emergency travel order states per the Chicago emergency travel order. The other big piece of keeping our kids safe from contracting COVID-19 is obviously wearing face masks. Face masks are to be worn at all times, inside and outside, except for when kids are directly, physically, actively engaged in their particular sport. So when our cross-country runners are running, they do not have to have their masks on. As soon as they're done with their race, though, they need to put their masks on. When they're warming up, they should have their masks on. Same thing with our golfers when they're on the course. They're wearing their masks the entire time, except for when they get ready to strike the ball. They can take their mask off. I know that some coaches and some athletes will choose to wear their masks the entire time when they're involved in their sport, and we are in full support of those extra safety precautions as well. While we normally have water available for all of our practices and competitions, this season we are needing, while we normally have water available at all of our practice and competitions, this season, students need to bring their own water bottles. There are some very hot days out there, so I would advise bringing at least 2 water bottles to each and every practice and competition. Kids should never share water bottles with each other, but we will not provide water for our student athletes because there's too much involved in sanitization of all the equipment that goes into that. If a student or coach learns that they have come into contact with someone that tested positive for COVID-19, they must notify me immediately. I will consult with the Evanston Health Department and we will make a final decision about their future participation. When it comes to contests and transportation, ETHS training pods will remain intact during competitions. Per the IHSA rule, ETHS can only compete against schools within our Kovid region, which is Region 10, also known as Suburban Cook County, or our CSL conference, which has some schools in Lake County. Those are the only competitions that we can participate in. The IHSA has also set a rule of a maximum of 50 participants, which includes students, coaches, officials, staff, and athletic trainers for each specific contest. Perhaps the biggest adjustment that parents are going to have to make is the fact that we do not allow spectators at ETHS home contests. I know that's very difficult for parents that have been following their kids' athletic careers for a long time. You just want to be able to go out there and cheer them on, but please follow and respect this guideline. Don't look for loopholes on ways that you can circumvent the system to be able to watch your child participate. We are doing this for the better interests of our overall community, and we really need your support in following the guideline of no spectators at any home contests at ETHS. Finally, we understand that families may not trust the transportation systems that we have to get kids to and from competitions through our yellow buses. And so we are providing families with the opportunity to transport their students to away contests. If a student takes the transportation provided by ETHS, if they ride the bus with us to a contest, that student must take that same transportation back to Evanston unless their parent or guardian signs the transportation release form. So if you anticipate picking your child up from an away contest, please have the transportation release form already signed and given to the coach prior to that date if possible, and certainly at that contest that day from your child. So those are the safety guidelines that we are following for this fall season. Again, we hope that you can respect and follow those guidelines for the better interests of our community and your children. So we got a lot to get through, and we'll get started by hearing from our boosters about Boosterpalooza.
Hey everyone, this is Shanice Brown, and I'm one of the co-presidents of this year's ETHS Booster Organization. Hope you're happy, healthy, and well. I'm reaching out to give you a little bit more information about the boosters. We are an entire parent-led volunteer organization aimed at ensuring that we are providing opportunities for wellness, connection, and engagement for all of our Wildcats. Like others in the Central Suburban League, we support athletics, but we are the only booster organization in that league to support fine arts and activities and clubs as well. So that could mean we provide special allocations for the field hockey team to get uniforms, or for the football team to get helmets, or the gymnastics organization to get mats. But it could also mean that if the video gaming club needs consoles, or the marching band's color guard needs new flags, we're there to support as well. We want to make sure all Wildcats have a great and enriched time while they're here. We do this enrichment through allocating monies that we raise throughout the year. And we raise that money in a few different ways. The first of which is one that you can do right now, which is order a yard sign. I have one right behind me. And these yard signs are an opportunity to highlight the activity that your child is participating in and stamp it right in your yard or hang it in your window and just show the support and the spirit for ETHS. If you go onto www.ethsboosters.org, you can find information about yard signs. You can also find information about joining as a member, and that's another way that we raise funds so that we can allocate to students. Memberships start as low as $5 and they go up higher than that. Any amount is helpful, appreciated, and really provides you information about what's going on at the school, but also makes it so that we're able to give back to students. Another big way that we raise money annually is through a fundraiser called Boosterpalooza. Typically that happens on the top of a garage in downtown Evanston, and it's quite a party. We're not going to be able to be live this year, and even though it's virtual, it is still vital. The event will take place on Saturday, September 12th, and at that event we will have lots of fun programming, including live bands, opportunities for you to just get out in the community and support Evanston-based businesses, and really looking forward to a fun and virtual way to bring the community together. So register now. Go onto that same ethsboosters.org website. Register for Boosterpalooza. You'll start getting all sorts of information, and you can have a great day on Saturday, September 12th. And then look out for other ways to support the students and through the boosters during the year, whether that be with online spiritware sales or when we are able to get together for events and have concessions, those too. So it's going to be a little bit different year, but it's still going to be a great year. And the ETHS Boosters thanks you for your support, and the students thank you for your support. Thanks, and have a great one. Bye now.
Thanks so much again for the boosters. It's going to be everything the boosters do is a lot of fun, whether it's in person or remote. So I hope everybody tunes in to the virtual Boosterpalooza this year. Boosters is one of the most critical organizations to the athletic department, as well as our other clubs and activities in fine arts. They give us about $100,000 in total each year. So please do what you can to support them in their mission. Next up, we're going to hear from our athletic trainers. Kalia and Oscar are going to talk to you guys a little bit about protocols and guidelines they have in the athletic training room to make sure that our kids stay safe.
Hello everybody. For those of you who aren't aware, my name is Oscar Flores. I'm one of the athletic trainers here at ETHS. I'm here with Kalia Elliston, the head athletic trainer here at ETHS. And today we're going to go over our brand new expectations amid this COVID-19 pandemic as it relates to seeking treatment in our facility. We'll stop here really quick to go over our guidelines here. You can pause the video at any time to read through some of the guidelines. I will go over most of them coming up shortly. The main thing is making sure that we have face coverings, okay? This cannot be a t-shirt over the nose and mouth for a temporary covering. This has to be either a mask, a bandana, a gaiter, whatever that goes on over the nose and mouth. That's the most important thing. So now we're gonna go in here. We're gonna have Eva come here and wait on one of our socially distant markings here in the room, okay? If you'll follow me over here, we'll go over our first area for social distancing. So as you can see here, we have X's in various locations to mark waiting areas for student athletes for things like using rehab equipment, evaluations, maybe using the table for other rehab exercises, and some icing here, okay? Now, when we transition over to the taping area, we have socially distant X markings here for taping as well. This is where the student athletes will be expected to wait, and they'll be directed by either us or the student athletic trainers for whatever they need. For taping here, we're only going to be using one table on each end to ensure social distancing here, but we will continue taping and bracing as needed. In addition to everything, we'll be following proper sanitation, hand washing, and hand sanitizing procedures here. And that's about it. Other than that, it's going to be business as usual. We can't wait to get into it with all of our ETHS student athletes. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for your time.
Up next, we're going to talk about how we support kids academically during the course of the season and beyond. The first thing to understand is that there is a requirement of passing 5 classes each semester in order to maintain your eligibility. In addition to that, at ETHS, we have something we call the Academic Watch List, which helps support kids that struggled academically the previous semester. So if you earn below a 2.0 GPA from the previous semester, you're going to be on the watch list, and that just simply means that you get academic support every week from an academic coach that's going to make sure you're staying on track so that you can do the best possible way in the classroom that next semester. We run weekly grade checks every Thursday. So coaches will get the grades from the student athletes Thursday night or Friday morning. They will then follow up with student athletes. If they're on study table, it means that they've earned a C- in 2 or more classes for that previous week. And the expectation is that they attend AM support. Now, I know that we can't be physically present for AM support, but Tuesday through Friday from 8:30 to 8:55 a.m., there are AM support opportunities for kids to connect with their teachers via Zoom. There is also opportunities for office hours on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So getting academic support is just as easy as it ever was. You're going to do it remotely, but you are required to do that if you're on study table. The other supports that we have in place are freshman study table. That's for kids that are on study table every 2 weeks in a row. Those freshmen are required to get even additional support. And we'll explain that, how that looks for freshmen as we get to that point in the year. The last thing I want to say about our academic support programs is our student athletes at ETHS do great in the classroom. They really do. They've done a tremendous job. Our average GPA for student athletes year in, year out is around a 3.70 versus a 3.0 for non-student athletes. So our expectations for student athletes are high, and our coaches are there to support them academically as well as through athletics. So we have high hopes for their academic year this year. The next slide really just talks about the college recruiting opportunity that we have here at ETHS. Joyce Anderson and Beth Airy do a phenomenal job of supporting our student athletes when it comes to making decisions about college opportunities. While Beth Airy handles as the college counselor for all of our student athletes, Joyce Anderson's role really is to try to help kids figure out what they need to do so that they can participate in their sport at the next level in college. She's been doing this for over 6 years now, and the number of kids we have go on to play college sports is larger than ever. So if you have an interest in participating in sports in college, please follow up with Joyce directly. Let her know your interest, and she will set up one-on-one meetings with you to try to support you the best way she can. The mission of ETHS Athletics has been the same for a long time. And I'm not going to read this slide to you because you guys are all capable of doing that yourselves, as with all the slides that we're going to get into now. But the main thing I want you to understand is our mission is not to win championships. Our mission is to develop the best human beings that we possibly can. And in order to do that, we follow some set core values and beliefs that really guide us in our mission. That's effort, that's selflessness, grit, passion, character, and leadership. And we're going to talk about each one of those here today to make sure that we convey exactly what we mean by each of those core values. The first core value that we emphasize is effort. I believe that effort is a skill that can be developed and improved upon each and every year, and I think it's a skill that you need for life. Our kids need to learn how to give their maximum effort at all times. And so we kind of put our money where our mouth is, and we provide 2 effort shirts, Nike Dry Fit Effort t-shirts that kids will win and earn, I should say, for each of their respective teams over the course of their season. This is when I would normally ask everybody in the crowd that's won an effort shirt or earned an effort shirt over the years to stand up. So if you're at home and you want to show off to your parents, show them the effort shirt that you've earned over your years. We will continue to do that this year, and congratulate everybody who earns one of those shirts, putting in the effort that's needed to make them successful. Selflessness is the next core value that we pride ourselves in teaching to our student athletes during their 4 years career at ETHS. And selflessness takes a lot of different shapes when you're involved in sports. And high school sports at that. Selflessness sometimes means that you play a different position than maybe you have grown up playing or that you really wanted to play. The coach recognizes a way for you to do a different position that's going to be more advantageous for the team, and it's up to you to try to figure out how to make that work so that your team can be the most successful it can be. Sometimes that also means that you're going to play a little bit less. And rather than complaining or arguing with your coach, you learn how to accept that role, do the very best that you can to try to keep getting better, but you put your team ahead of your own self-interests. And then finally, one of the key elements that we hope our coaches are working on with our kids over the course of a year is just basic community service, giving back to our community in a selfless way so that Evanston can be better, our high school can be better, and our student athletes can be better as people, learning how to give of themselves. So selflessness is another one of our core values. I think we'd all agree that some of the best things about sports is it teaches positive lessons about leadership, commitment, teamwork, hard work, discipline, etc. But I know I'm preaching to the choir of parents who already have their kids involved in sports. Lots of times, though, these lessons are learned when student athletes are pushed beyond their comfort zone, whether it's really tough conditioning, whether it's asking them to do a particular skill or thing that doesn't feel natural to them. Kids have to learn how to break through that comfort zone to get better. And still, there's other difficult lessons learned sometimes in sports, such as dealing with a difficult teammate, maybe not getting along with your coach, not seeing eye to eye with some of the decisions that are made. And those can be really uncomfortable for kids, especially kids aged 14 through 18. They haven't had a chance to navigate difficult conversations with adults yet. And a lot of times in these situations, when kids are struggling with an issue on their team, we want to have parents kind of swoop in and save their child from those ugly, difficult situations. And by doing so, we kind of rob our kids of the opportunity to learn our next core value of grit. And grit really is a key element to success later in life and now in life for kids, because they have to learn how to deal with the difficult stuff. They have to deal with the adversity that's thrown at them. So we really try to follow a communication chain that helps ensure that kids are going to learn grit. And that's this simple process. If a student athlete's struggling on their respective team, whether it's with a teammate or a coach, as difficult as it may be, we want them to talk to their teammate or coach directly about that situation first and foremost. Parents, I know that's going to be difficult sometimes, but we need you to coach them up on how to do that. So talk to them about that the day before. Talk to them about how to approach their coach. Oftentimes, the most effective way to talk to a coach is away from the team, not right before and not right after a practice or game. So let's start with having the student athlete talk to the coach directly. And that'll give them a lot more confidence to have those difficult conversations later on in life when the stakes are even higher. If that communication doesn't work and in a couple of weeks things still haven't improved for your child, then we ask that the parent does get involved and reach out to the coach directly of their specific team and set up a time for a parent, coach, and child to talk, whether it's in Zoom, whether it's a socially distanced meeting face-to-face. Let's make sure that there is a conversation being had by those stakeholders. If things still aren't getting better, that's when we want to involve the head coach in the issue. And if that doesn't solve the problem, then please give me a call and we'll set something up where you, your child, the coach, and myself will get together and we'll talk through whatever it is that's going on so that your kid can have the best experience possible. But if we start by making sure that our children have the opportunity to speak up for themselves, that will really help teach and enforce the importance of grit in their lives. So that being said, we also recognize that this is a very difficult time for kids. Obviously, with remote learning, with being separated from other students during the day, whatever your home situation may be, times are difficult, and I get that. And sometimes we understand that kids just need help. They just need support. And it's okay to not be okay. If your child is really struggling socially or emotionally, please reach out to a social worker here at ETHS so they can get the support that they need from our school. We can't just say, toughen up, kid, every single time our kids encounter a problem, especially when it's a social emotional issue. So please take advantage of the resources we have here at school. Thank you. So the next core value that I want to talk to you guys about is passion. This is an exciting one, obviously, because it's when we get to wear our heart on our sleeves, cheer on our team, show our love for the program, for each other, for ETHS, and I think that's one of the things that makes high school sports so exciting is the passion that kids play with, the passion that coaches coach with, and most of the time the passion that parents cheer with. But I want to use this opportunity to really talk about the passion that kids have for playing sports, and really specifically different sports. If you're a student athlete that likes to play more than one sport, please continue to play more than one sport here at ETHS. All of our coaches understand the emphasis we place on the importance of multiple sport participation. I think it's something that helps you grow as an overall person. It helps you make new friendships. It helps you learn to play different roles on the different teams that you're in. If you're worried about trying to play your sport at the next level and think you have to just focus on that sport only, I can tell you that many college coaches, especially these days, have come around to realize that kids that have played multiple sports, one, are better athletes, and two, are not nearly as burnt out by the time they arrive on campus. So please follow your heart, follow your passion, and continue to play multiple sports here at ETHS. Parents, you guys have done an excellent job, I'm sure, in teaching your kids right from wrong over their lives. And now it's time for them to kind of walk the walk and show what they've learned, especially when it comes to character, honesty, integrity, making the right decisions. You know, whether that's just walking down the street, seeing some trash, picking it up, putting it in the garbage, whether or not it's encountering a situation where another kid might be being bullied and they step in or intervene on their behalf. Just trying to do the right thing all the time is really an important core value we have for our student athletes. And, you know, I think it goes without saying that that's something that we all want to see our kids develop, is a strong sense of right from wrong and doing the right thing when nobody's looking, but then also when everybody's looking. And what I mean by that is we really have to make sure that our kids are managing social media well, that we're not posting inappropriate pictures or comments or statements that are going to be blasted to what might feel like just a dozen, but turns out to be, you know, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Our kids are putting their character on the front lines every time they post things on social media. We just need to be really smart about that. If our kids happen to make really bad decisions and post inappropriate pictures or statements on social media that we learn about, that's especially through their team communication line, that may jeopardize their ability to participate in sports. And if it's a social media account that's targeted or driven by that particular sport, that sport may lose its opportunity to continue to participate as an ETHS program for the season. So please make good decisions when it comes to the social media posts that you make, and let's demonstrate great character at all times so that we can be the best Wildcats we can be. I think we can all agree that leadership is a core value that means a lot in sports, and that will be developed through sports. And whether it's on the field, in the court, on the pool, being a good leader has a positive impact on your team. But we also expect that our student athletes are going to be good leaders in school and on the weekends with their friends. And hopefully they'll be the leader that steers kids away from drugs and alcohol. Let's face it, using drugs and alcohol is a violation of our activity code, and there are pretty serious consequences associated with it. I'm not going to spend too much time here going over those consequences, but please understand that we expect our student athletes to be leaders, to make good decisions, to not use drugs and alcohol. And if they do, it's going to cost them opportunities to participate in sports. Parents, you have a big role in this, in supporting us and in supporting your child. On the screen, you'll see the guide for parents of ETHS athletes that just give you some simple tips that you can utilize to reinforce the extracurricular activity code at home, such as setting clear rules so that kids understand what they can and can't do when it comes to drugs and alcohol. Checking in with parents. When your kid says they're going over to a friend's house, it's giving that parent a call to make sure that they actually went there. And making a plan for what your child is going to do if they roll up on a situation that is different than they thought. In other words, if they get to a party and they realize everybody's drinking there, everybody's smoking, what should they do? They should exit the house immediately. They should call you on a phone. They should make a place, decide on a place for you to pick them up at. But parents, you have a huge role and a huge influence on your kids. Whether it feels like it right now or not, they are listening to you. So please make sure you talk to your kids about making healthy choices around drugs and alcohol and what to do if they're in a situation that they don't know how to get out of. The last core value that I want to talk about is excellence. Obviously, we want our kids to win championships. We would love for them to all win state championships, conference championships, hoist the trophy up at the end of the year. But we know that's not always possible. And so we define excellence, as I think most programs and most coaches do these days, as basically maximizing the most of your potential, getting every ounce of your potential out so that your team can be as successful as it possibly can be. Sometimes for some programs, that's a 500 record. Sometimes that is hosting up a state championship trophy. But whatever it is, we want to make sure that our focus is on the things that we can control and not worrying about all the things that we can't control, like officials' calls, the abilities of the other team. Excellence means that we take advantage of what we can control and do the best to our ability to achieve excellence every time we're at practice and every time we're in a competition. So parents, how can you best support your kid this season? Well, there's a few things that we want to talk about. The first is not applicable anymore, which is basically your behavior in the stands and as a spectator. Unfortunately, given COVID-19, we're not able to allow spectators at our home contests. There are some away contests where you might be able to be a fan at, and we just want you to exhibit the best behavior possible. But I won't spend a lot of time talking about that today. Probably the areas where you're going to have the most influence and can provide the best support for your kids are going to be the car rides home from practice and games. Right after maybe a difficult practice or a tough loss, your kids are going to be frustrated and complaining about something that might have happened. In those car rides, we hope that you will, rather than focus on the excuses that kids sometimes bring up about a coach's decision or a teammate dropping the ball or a bad call by an official, we hope that you'll try to redirect course so they can focus on the things that they can control over the course of their season, which is their attitude and their effort. And the last area I think that parents can really help support their kids is at the dinner table. Hopefully you guys are finding a way to get together as a family for a few meals a week. And when you do that, my greatest hope is that you don't talk about sports at all, that you don't add any additional pressure that your child might already be feeling about playing sports. So parents, you can help your kids by just enjoying a meal and talking about anything but sports when you're sitting down at the dinner table. And as I said earlier, we just really want to focus on the things that our child can control, which is their attitude and effort. If your kid can go through 4 years of sports and school here at ETHS and learn how to have a great attitude and always give their best effort, they are going to be prepared to tackle any obstacle that comes their way in life. And those are the things that we want to really emphasize as parents for our kids to be able to control. As an athlete, as a coach, and as athletic director at ETHS, unfortunately, I've encountered some of the worst stories when it comes to our athletes encountering hate speech in contests. Oftentimes, it's in the form of racist language used towards our kids. I'm happy and proud to say that the Central Suburban League adopted the hate speech protocol 5 years ago to try to make sure that that type of language is just not a part of the activities that we have here in the Central Suburban League Conference. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what the hate speech protocol is. First of all, hate speech is the use of racist, sexist, homophobic language that's targeted at a member of one of our teams or coaches. We have a procedure in place to deal with hate speech at contests in the CSL. Essentially what it means is that our student athletes, if they hear hate speech from an opposing player or a coach, is going to tell their coach about it immediately. Our coach will then inform the official, if there's an official present, who will stop the contest right then and deal with the situation. If it's not being officiated, like many of our fall sports are not, the coach will talk to the other coach and they'll stop play and make sure that we deal with that situation right then and there. If the student athlete on the other school does not admit to saying what they said, they're going to be put on notice that if they do use hate speech anymore, that they will be suspended from that contest and they will be subject to the hate speech protocols in their school for behavior. They will also sit out the next contest as well. We do not tolerate hate speech in the Central Suburban League, and we will stand up for our kids if they encounter that. At the same time, we have to make sure that our kids are following up and not using hate speech themselves. And I'll be real honest, I've definitely encountered situations where our kids have been the guilty party for using hate speech. Oftentimes, it's around homophobic language. And if that is present, if our kids use homophobic language or sexist language or racist language, either towards each other or towards an opponent, our coach is going to also enforce the suspension policy, and they will be removed from participation in that contest or that practice for that day and subject to additional discipline. So let's make sure we're supporting each other, that we're respecting each other, and that we make sure that hate speech has no place in Evanston athletics, and we will do the same in the Central Suburban League as well. And actually, great news, since the recording of this parent meeting, I'm happy to announce that the IHSA just announced on August 24th that they have now adopted the hate speech protocol that we created in the Central Suburban League. So the expectation across the state of Illinois is that student athletes cannot use hate speech ever in a contest. So that's great news for our kids, for our school, and I think for the state of Illinois itself. Finally, we just have a few odds and ends that we want to make sure we talk about so that we're all on the same page. The first is just managing schedule conflicts. Please reach out to your coach of your child's sport, or have your child do it first and foremost, with any schedule conflicts you see coming up during the course of the season. If it's 2 months out, talk to them about it. Don't wait until we get to the week before a contest to say that my daughter or my son is no longer able to participate in this contest or this practice. Try to be as proactive as you can. And our coaches will do their best to work with you, but there are expectations about attending practices, and if kids can't make practices, that will probably have an impact on their ability to compete for that next contest. Another thing to just alert you to is that we'll host our senior sports banquet at the end of the year, which last year was virtual. This year, hopefully, we can maybe all get together, but it will definitely not be until well after the school year ends. And while we don't have that date figured out just yet, I hope that you guys will kind of plant a seed in your brain to make sure you can be in attendance for that event. It's really a wonderful chance for us to bring all of our senior athletes, parents, and coaches together to celebrate 4 years of athletics at ETHS. Another odd and end that I want to just talk about is our weather alert system. Most of our sports operate outdoors during the fall, and if we ever get a lightning strike within a 10-mile radius of ETHS, we do get notification via text, and we will immediately shut down a practice or contest until we have 30 minutes of lightning-free conditions. So if you happen to be at home and you know your child is participating in a sport that day or at a practice, and you look up and you see lightning, rest assured that we have a system in place to make sure that if it's in our radius, we will not continue to practice or compete. For those of you that are on social media, we do have a fairly active presence on Twitter at ETH Sports. If you want to give us a follow there, we try to update the highlights for our different sports teams, track our alumni in college, and just find fun, motivational things that are going on in the world of sports each and every day. If you are a multiple sport athlete, please take the time and register now for your winter, spring, and summer sport. This is really a unique year for all of our student athletes to take advantage of the opportunity to be a 4-sport athlete. You can try new things in the spring season that maybe you didn't get a chance to do in the past, given the reallocation of sports. So I hope you guys will take the time to try a new sport out this year. But if you're going to do that, please register now so that our coaches know that you're interested in that sport and can communicate with you the opportunities that will exist for your participation. Thank you all for watching this video and preparing for the upcoming fall sports season. Appreciate your time and attention. We are not looking to just survive this sports season. We're looking to thrive this sports season and really have a great season ahead of us. If we all follow the safety guidelines as presented at the beginning of our presentation and continue to support our kids the best way possible, I think we're going to have a great fall season. So thank you for your attention, and go Kits.